Have you ever been out in public and you saw someone who clearly was different? The way that they were walking, the way that they were talking, you could overhear the conversation of whoever was with them. They were getting so excited over the most minute thing, whether it be the sparkle on the floor or the crack in the window, something so small that they were just so obsessed with it. And that caregiver or that adult or whoever was with them didn't pay any mind, had a conversation, but you knew that that individual was different. You could see it, and the rest of the world could see it, but you couldn't quite put your finger on what was so different about them. What I want to talk about today is autism. Autism is a subject that is so unknowledgeable to the public. They don't really know much about it. They just know that it makes that individual different. It can make that individual agitated. It can make that individual not be very social, or it can make that individual talk your ear off. I want to give you a little information on autism, what it is, what causes it, some treatment for the cognitive issues. I also would like to talk about the vaccination in correlation with autism. Autism is defined as a broad range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech, and nonverbal communication. Within the last 5 years, autism has become autism spectrum disorder, which is an umbrella of diagnosis. The disorder includes autistic disorder, pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, or PSD, NOS, and Asperger's syndrome. These disorders are all put underneath one to differentiate where on the spectrum an individual falls. How advanced is their autism? How high functioning are they in society? Will they need a caregiver for the rest of their life? Or will they be able to live on their own when they're of age to only see a caregiver when needed to help with their expenses or things along the lines of that? Autism has to deal with social issues, behavioral issues, speech issues. There are many strengths and weaknesses. Autistic individuals can excel in certain things and be very weak in other things. For instance, an individual may be very, very technologically advanced. They can take apart and rebuild a computer without even thinking about it. But when it comes to some sort of action that you would perform every day, whether it be tying your shoes or getting dressed in the morning or putting milk in your cereal, that could be a weakness for that individual. Autism is a neurological disorder that usually shows up within the first 3 years of a child's life. That is when a medical professional or someone who is an expert in that field will be able to diagnose a child with autism. In 1992, it was 1 in 50 children would be diagnosed with autism. In 2002, it was 1 in 68. That is a huge jump of numbers. With the neurological issues, there can also be individuals who will not be able to care for themselves. It can come with seizures or epilepsy. So there is a very broad spectrum. There is no one cause of autism. There have been many different ideas as to what may cause autism. There is no one factor. Autism does not discriminate against race, where you're from, anything along the lines of that. Sometimes you will see autism in children who are in a specific environment. If one sibling was diagnosed, you may sometimes see the younger sibling also be diagnosed with autism. Researchers believe that genetics has a lot to do with it. Some people say vaccines have to do with it. There was a very interesting theory of mirror neurons, which is a research facility decided to monitor the neurons that are in your brain and how the difference in a normal individual versus an autistic person. Come to find out that the mirror neurons were the same in both individuals. There was no difference in the way that these neurons reacted with each other in this normal individual versus an autistic individual. There have been environmental factors that researchers have been looking at. One of the causes that they are looking at this point is genetics. When your DNA is formed, it's almost like at the very last second you decide to take that left turn instead of the GPS telling you to go right, and scientists and researchers believe that that could be just it. Could just be something that's in your DNA. Your DNA decides last minute to change course. Researchers are working very diligently to find a cause so we can find a cure. As of right now, there is no cure for autism. There are strategies that individuals can take to help not fix, but give the individual better tools with behavioral issues or social issues. They can even sometimes try and give them medications to help with those issues. Some people believe that vaccines cause autism. There has been no proven scientific evidence to support that vaccines cause autism. We can thank Andrew Wakefield for that, for publishing a study in the British Journal titled The Lancelot, which was a flawed study of 12 individuals, 2 of which were already exhibiting autistic behaviors prior to the study. These 12 individuals were administered the MMR vaccine, or the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. Wakefield said that when these individuals were given this vaccine, that they were magically exhibiting autistic behaviors, which wasn't the case. In order to have a controlled study, you need more than 12 individuals. Not only that, there was no credibility behind any of his study. Andrew Wakefield was paid by attorneys who were suing the vaccine companies to perform this study, which held no real scientific evidence. The journal eventually pulled the study due to the misconceptions, but people still believe that vaccines do cause autism, which, again, there is no scientific evidence to back that up. This has increased the amount of illness in children because parents believe that by preventing their children from receiving these vaccinations, that they will not get autism. Unfortunately, because autism doesn't really show until about the age of 3, that in order for them to receive proper immunity to these illnesses, doctors and medical professionals and experts in this field cannot determine if a child is autistic when the vaccines are needed. The treatment for autism, since again there is no direct cause, there is no cure, there is no treatment, dependent where an individual falls on the spectrum, will depend on what course of treatment or therapy that they receive. Behavioral therapy is usually common in individuals with autism because individuals cannot necessarily handle their emotions. They lack empathy, so when they say things or do things, they don't know how to properly cope with those feelings. I wish I had learned these things sooner because I might have decided to pursue a career in educating children with autism or educating the public with autism. But there isn't a lot out there, and I want to make sure that people know what it is. It's not scary. It unfortunately is a way of life, but with the proper knowledge and the proper communication, we can integrate these individuals into our society in a way that doesn't make them feel different from everyone else.